I like to start most presentations by answering the question, who the hell is this person? I think audiences deserve that. I'm Matt Austin. I was born in Hartford, Connecticut. I grew up mostly in Buffalo, New York, and a little bit in the Chicago suburbs. My academic life has mostly focused on math until I felt the need to get out of the state of Iowa after my freshman year as a calculus major. I then jumped into art blindly by moving to Chicago and enrolling at Columbia College, where I fell in love with photography and philosophy, traveled a lot, and eventually graduated. Today I make and teach art. Fear and being alive are big motivators for me. I really enjoy learning through experience. I tend to maintain a similar approach to the different aspects of my life, like making art, teaching, lunch with my mom, giving this presentation right now. It's all a process of learning for me. I try to make decisions based on trusting my gut and being as honest as possible. I learn best through failure when trying out new things that fascinate me. I currently teach arts programs at Senn High School, the School of the Art Institute, occasionally Jones College Prep, and I also tutor math on the weekends. I consider it my responsibility as a teacher to provide a place for students to feel good about who they are, what they're doing in my classroom, and why they're listening to me, of all people. Needless to say, providing this social safe zone in a place like high school is not easy. The students are preoccupied with their self-image, their academic, social, and relationship statuses. The term young adult is becoming more familiar to them by the day, and hair is now growing in places it never has before. Between prom and Facebook, they are in the middle of what feels like the most intense social spotlight of their entire lives. I wholeheartedly believe that exploring ideas through art can help ground them in this moment. However, let's envision the delivery of that statement to one of my students. Hillary, I think that exploring ideas through art can really ground you in this tumultuous moment of your life. I can definitely count on eyes being rolled at me, but I might even get an ew, gross. It's rare that we see enthusiasm for critical dialogue that we hope to see our students engaging in. Normally, it comes with lots of reluctance. Within the teacher-created safe zone of a classroom, students will craft their own more trusted versions that often look like this. Maybe some of you are familiar with, I like it. Personally, I think this is a very brilliant response. I like it is not only a hiding place from revealing any unique emotional response, but it also satisfies all parties in the most minimal way possible. These sorts of responses are actually genius. They are the perfect storm of participation points, classmate affirmation, and portrayed indifference, also known as being cool. Also common in critique settings, this dialogue will take place. I don't know, I just took it. As much as this response to our prompts can be incredibly frustrating, it's more important to remember that this form of participation is coming from a completely legitimate place. Getting up in front of a group of people and expressing your honest feelings and opinions is terrifying. Trust me, I'm doing it right now. I'd say the easiest part of this presentation is that we're not all still in high school. Can we take a minute to appreciate that? Okay. So how do we solve this? How do we make this safe place exist? What does it look like? Can a classroom dynamic actually relax high school adolescent social anxieties? I personally don't think that there's an end-all be-all answer to this. Many of these insecurities prevail well after high school, but I'd like to share a small bit of progress that I've made regarding critique discussions through this exercise I've designed. The concept started in this car here. My brother and I share this car, and as you can see, we eat apples in it from time to time. I dropped him off somewhere off Belmont, I think, and he had left an apple core on the passenger floor when he got out. I was also eating an apple, still not yet finished with mine, but much more of my apple had been eaten than his. His apple core got me thinking about his definition of done versus my definition of done. We're brothers. I didn't think our definitions could be that much different, but our cores said differently. It got me thinking about how everyone has a different definition of what it means to be done eating their apple. As people, we all create different thresholds for what we consider done, such as my apartment is clean, or this artwork is finished. Or how amazingly often I hear my students yell above their computers, Matt, I'm done, what do I do now? It made me think of Duchamp's fountain against the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Both world-renowned works are done, finished, complete, but coming from such different places, different histories, and made for different audiences. I had been considering how my students all have very different drives and interests, but all similarly share this reluctance to share. I decided that I wasn't going to let my students critique each other's artwork until we critiqued each other's apple eating. The exercise goes like this. I bring in apples of varying sizes and types. Each student comes up and chooses which one they want. I tell them to find a place privately in the building where they can eat it completely alone with no distraction at all. They decide when they are done with the apple. They hold on to the core and return it to me. I hand them a presentation napkin, and we turn the lights from the walls to the apples. The critique follows the same structure as most critiques. Which piece would you guys like to start with? Why? What about that one stands out to you? Well, it's just so different than all the others. Well, what makes it different? Jeremy, would you like to talk to us about your process here? My favorite part about this exercise is the certainty that the students hold with one another. They're defensive and passionate about their apple eating. These conversations turn from giggling to the students' upbringings to awarenesses of their current circumstances, like, I'm not hungry, or this apple wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I recently described this exercise to a friend, obviously excited about my students' confidence. He said, well, sure, you're democratizing talent within the room, casually articulating my exercise better than I ever have. But he's right. We aren't worried about being bad at apple eating. Yet, as artists, we mostly measure the effect of our work based on audience response. If you add that to teenage hypersensitivity to social acceptance, it makes for a pretty high hurdle to jump. At the end of this exercise, the students verbally list the reasons why our finished apples look different, and I write the reasons on the board. We discuss and clarify what governed our decisions in the apple eating process. Thresholds we're not willing to cross, hunger versus sacrifice, lack of satisfaction, amount of interest in our subject, taste preferences, conditioned behaviors from childhood, and so on. Concluding, anything we ever produce will always look different, and legitimately so. The apple core also serves as a reference point for what it means to be done. Later in the semester, the question, if your work presented here were an apple, exactly how done is it? How much further are you willing to go? How do you feel about your approach so far? The apple becomes a symbol used for measurement. What's left? Why? Am I okay with that? Similarly, as a teacher, I believe that this tool is good. When it comes to providing a safe place for my students to express ideas, I feel I have a lot more to learn before I feel done. Thank you.